Welcome back to another episode of Swim Lessons. I'm your host, Dallas Hanson. Today's guest is Chris Murdock of Billings Senior High School. Coach Murdock is the head football coach at Billings Senior. Chris is one of those dudes whose story really makes you think about life and what it's really about. As you listen to this podcast, Coach Murdock talks about life and how he's battled back from some pretty tough spots. After getting to know Coach Murdock through our conversation, the amount of respect I gained for the guy was a lot. Just from talking to him for an hour, I learned a ton, and I bet you will too. And Coach Murdock brought me into the school. We got to know each other pretty well, and I really enjoyed his view of life. And I think if people can gain a little bit more on how Coach Murdock views his life, everybody will be a little bit better off. But before we get to Coach Murdock, I've got a few sponsors I need to talk about. Let's talk about Glosso Angus. Glosso Angus is a proud sponsor of Swim Lessons. Glosso Angus is your premier source for registered black Angus since 1973. Glosso Angus cattle showcase dominance, durability, and are built to thrive on the northern plains. You can check them out at Glosso Angus, that's GLASOE Angus.com. They got some really cool stuff on their website, videos, all types of things on what they do, so please check out Glosso Angus. Next up is Tegan's Interior. Tegan's Interior is located on Main Street in Crosby, North Dakota. Tegan's Interior offers all types of products, whether it's shades, blinds, flooring, lighting, anything you need when remodeling your home or building that dream home. Reach out to Tyler and Nikita Swanson at Tegan's Interior. That's Tegan's, TEAGANS Interior.com. Or give them a call at 701-965-6367. Next up is Up Top, the clothing company. Up Top grew from the ground up, and that's why roots are so important to the team at Up Top. Up Top was formed in Butte, Montana from its founders of Luke and Colt Anderson, two studs. Up Top continues to be designed in Montana with Butte's tough as nails mantra with apparel for both men and women. Check them out on social media at UpTop, UPTOP, or just online at teamuptop.com. They've got great apparel. I absolutely love them. Next sponsor is ProSafe. My boy Jarek Hansen. ProSafe is a locally owned and operated company since 2000 out of Williston, North Dakota. It's a name you can rely on. They offer expert pest control, ground sterilization, as well as red rock for oil field production. Give ProSafe a call at 701-774-3167 or check them out at www.prosafe.com. Thank you, ProSafe. And last but not least, one of my favorite things in the world, Henny's Coffee, which is located in beautiful downtown Crosby, North Dakota, right here on Main Street. They not only have coffee and espressos, but also have zingers, which is a flavored drink with Red Bull in it, along with all types of baked goods. And the main reason I like Henny's is because it's an all-time vibes place, and I just love meeting people there. Find out all what Henny's has to offer by looking them up on Facebook at Henny's, Hennys Coffee, or give them a ring to make a to-go order, purchase a gift card, whatever it may be, 701-965-2182. And I also want to thank the Booster Club for Billings West High School, the Bozeman High Booster Club, and all of the coaches in AA Montana football. If it were not for you, this would not have been possible. So without further ado, I give you the great and powerful Chris Murdock.
Here come the boys. Y'all ready to go swimming, baby? Come on. Give it up. Get out of that water. I tried telling y'all, it's swim lessons, baby.
Coach Murdock, thanks for coming in, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for promoting AA football in Montana. This is an exciting deal.
Well, when this comes out, it'll be post the national championship for the FCS. So
Okay.
Right now, the Grizzlies just beat NDSU in double overtime, and the star of the show was a kid that you coached.
Yep, Junior Bergen.
Yep. And, I mean, tell us a little bit about Junior.
So, Junior is just obviously, as everybody can see watching the games, he's a phenomenal athlete. And, along with that, what I would always say, like you hear coaches talk about, you can be a he's a great athlete and he's a good kid, or he can be a great athlete, but he's, junior doesn't have any of those like but qualities. It's always, you can just keep going with the and for junior. He's always loved the game of football, obviously. And so, I think it seems like it's, more and more getting rare to have kids that like will sit and watch an entire football game and as a kid growing up and understand the game. And that's, probably along with his athleticism, the thing that stands out with junior is like, he just gets football. Like he understands the game of football so well. And, and then you add to that where you get a lot of kids that, in high school that are, all state athletes, and they can do that, on their talent and do the bare minimum. But junior would, even, during basketball season, junior would still be in working with his dad, on his techniques at 6 a.m., and,
wow.
And then after basketball practice in the evening, he'd go lift. There just wasn't a limit to, all the things that make junior good. I had him in class. He's an awesome kid to have in class and just fun to have around. He's got a great smile. You can't say enough good things about junior.
Well, that's big for AA football in Montana because you had Tommy Millott, who's a starting cornerback from Montana State, and now you've got junior making big waves as a punt returner, wide receiver, / he threw the touchdown last night. Yep. It's got to be a good feeling for AA football in Montana to have stars not only shining at the high school level, but also in college.
Yeah, I love being able to, watch both the Cats and the Grizzlies. I've always said I sit on the fence, which is rare in Montana, but I just love watching the Montana boys. That Grizz defense is full of guys that we played against, that we had to go up against, the Flinks,
yep.
And the Janicaros. They're, guys that, Jackson Lee, you just Montana guys that we had to face, across the board for the Grizzlies. And then it's always fun to watch the Bobcats. And, we had, also had Nolan Askelson, who wore number 41 for the Bobcats this year and played their weak side linebacker. And he's just another, it's going to be a bummer that, he's finishing up, don't get to watch him, but, Nolan was just a really good player for us. And both Junior and Nolan were quarterbacks for us.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah, we were pretty blessed. Yeah.
And you were telling me about Junior's dad. He's on the coaching staff as well, but he wears a lot of hats here in Billings.
Yeah. So Simon Bergen is Junior's dad. And yeah, Simon, he's a counselor here at Senior High. And he coaches he helps us coach the DBs, and he's forgotten more football than,
yeah.
I could, especially when it comes to coaching the secondary, and just his general overall knowledge of the game of football is really good. And then he's also a pastor at a local church in town. So he's always bouncing from one responsibility to another. So yeah, we're really blessed to have Simon on our coaching staff for sure.
Well, let's get back to you. Let's talk about Coach Murdock here. And I want you to take us back. When we were walking into the school, you were telling me you played at University of Mary and stuff, but take us back even further to high school when you knew Chris Murdock, the football was going to have a lot to do with your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So I remember coming in, going into my freshman year, I had an opportunity here at Senior High to come lift, and I had never really been in a weight room before. And we had a guy here by the name of Rick Fancher. He was a, high school, he ran the weight room, he's a PE teacher. And then he was also, coach football. But he was just kind of a guy that you're coming in as a freshman in high school and you look at this kid or this guy and he's just like, oh man, he looked like the man,
Yeah.
And I'm back squatting for the first time in my life and, cautiously putting on 10-pound plates on each side. And he just continues to encourage me and spend time with me. And that really, really left a big impact on me just that day. And I've written papers about that for college, just kind of how that set my vision and my purpose for what I wanted to do, moving forward. And, I always kind of go back to that day and then I just loved being part of the program here at Senior High from, that was Rick Fancher. And then going into my senior year, Mark Sulzer took over as a head coach, and just his vision and what he stood for as a head coach really, continued to motivate me to want to stay in the profession for sure of coaching. And so that's definitely where it started for me.
So then you had some success in high school. Then what was the recruiting process like for you? Because you leave out of state to go play at Mary. What was that whole thing like for you personally?
Yeah, so I played quarterback my senior year. I kind of played receiver, DB, kind of back and forth. We had other quarterbacks up until my senior year, and Sulcer takes over as a head coach and coaching the offense, and I played quarterback. And it was the first time that a high school coach pulled me aside and drew up plays for me and said, "This is what we're going to do," and kind of got me really excited about, basically, made me part of the planning process, which was really cool. And then, my junior year here at senior, we were 0-10.
Really?
Yeah, and it was
you didn't win a game.
No, we didn't win a game, and yeah, and so then
how was that?
Yeah, it was hard. I think we only had like 10 seniors that year.
Okay.
The numbers were just, for whatever reason, Pat Dolan was our coach from my freshman year to my junior year, and I always looked up to Coach Dolan as well. It was just one of those things where you have like just changes in attendance, and just things that you go through as a coach. And so then Sulcer was helping coach the offense that junior year when we were 0-10. And so then fast forward to my senior year, and we go, I think we were 5-5 or 4-5, something along those. But it was a dramatic improvement for sure.
Big
yeah,
uptick.
and so definitely hadn't had any recruiting opportunities up until after my senior year. I think I did a walkthrough at Rocky, and then Coach Schultz and Coach Walsh from University of Mary came, and I remember my mom cooked brownies for him to make the house smell real nice.
What a good memory.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and just it's definitely nice to feel like somebody wants you. But we had always gone to 7-on-7 tournaments down at Colorado State, so I wanted to give that a try. So I did walk on at Colorado State, and after that didn't work out, I called Coach Schultz and just said, "Hey, is there still an opportunity for me at the University of Mary?" And so second semester of my freshman year, I was off to Bismarck, and it was a really definitely a smart decision.
Yeah,
Bismarck and the University of Mary is, for me, a really special place. That small community compared to being at Colorado State, where there's 25,000 students, to where you're basically at a school that's 2,500 to 3,000 students, and your class sizes go from 150 to 30. So it was definitely a good change. Yeah.
So college happens. In college, going into it, did you know, like, hey, I want to be a teacher or be in the academic side of things with the school?
Yeah, I think even in like high school, I knew that teaching and coaching was going to be the thing that I wanted to do, but I also knew you also look at the pay.
Yeah.
And so I think I tried to avoid that and tried, several different majors. It's definitely a standing joke in my family that, especially with my wife, that I took 6 years to get a math teaching degree. But it was just because I just, I think I avoided just that idea of like being a teacher, and, there was just parts of it that I wasn't, especially the pay, that I was like, oh man, maybe this isn't something I want to do. But yeah, pretty quickly, it became, and just having those relationships with your coaches, you know what I mean? I just had great relationships at Mary with Coach Schultz and our defensive coordinator, Coach Schaffner. He was a big influence on me. And so I think those relationships just inspire you even more to like say, okay, this is, I'm the person I am because of the coaches all the way back from Fancher, Dolan, Sulcer, and then Schultz and Schaffner. And you have all these guys that help you become the person you are. And so you're like, why wouldn't I want to do that? And hopefully be that way for the kids I get a chance to teach.
Pay it forward almost.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so Mary's done, and then you get a chance to coach the DBs at University of Mary. Is that correct?
Yep. Okay. I stayed and coached DBs for a year there at Mary. And we had gotten married leading into that. So it was kind of fun. I had 1 year of college left coaching DBs. Did my student teaching there in Bismarck while I coached DBs at Mary, and it was definitely a cool time there. So.
Yeah. When did you find your way back out west to Billings?
Well, I would always come back in the summer and help with camp, as a college student. And then, I got my first teaching job at West High, and then went to, because I was able to get that job, but I still coached at senior. But kind of what I learned in that time at West is like high school kids are high school kids. And cool story along with that is, I'm coaching football at senior and I'm teaching at West. And I got, it's kind of I'm trying to think how this all went.
It's all good. Take your time.
I think tough events, sometimes it's hard to remember stuff. So, but So in 2000, let's see, this would have been 2006. This would have been like the spring after my first opportunity to be a full-time teacher and coach in Billings. I was diagnosed with cancer, and I had to have a big surgery in the spring. And so it was a lymph node dissection, and they had hoped they had gotten all the cancer. And then, so that was in the spring of 2006. Fast forward to the fall of 2006, I had to keep going in. I was teaching and coaching, and I had to go in for routine checkups just to see if the cancer would come back. And it did come back in some of the parts of my lymph nodes. So then at that time, I had to stop coaching in the middle of the season and then have some chemo treatments. And so I had to pause from my teaching at West and pause from my coaching at Senior. And this is kind of really cool stuff. So there was a group of players and parents at Senior that got orange wristbands and sold them for me, in support of, helping pay for the cancer treatments. And then a group of kids at West High that got together, and including one of them was who's our O-line coach, Brandon Questenberry here at Senior. But he was a student at West then.
Wow.
And they all got together and made their own wristbands that were black, black and silver. And it was just cool. I mean, I'll always, West High is obviously a rival, but that was a pretty cool moment that those kids, at West that I had in class. Absolutely. And then, and you build a relationship with them in class. And it's another crazy story is one of the kids in my class, the kid that came up with the idea of getting the wristbands, he had moved from Bismarck to Billings. But when he was a little kid, I was playing football there at Mary, or, younger, not a little kid, but younger. And the house he lived in, it's kind of hard to follow, but the house he lived in was by one of my teammates' brother's house in Bismarck. And so we would go to his brother's house and run hill sprints in this coulee. Well, it was behind this house where this kid that's now at West High lived growing up. And so he would always come out and run hills with us.
Oh, nice.
So then fast forward, I end up having me in as a student at West, and he rallies all the kids to put these, just kind of crazy how that all came full circle.
Full circle.
So that's kind of cool. And of course that motivated me even more to stay and do my best for the profession of coaching and teaching. Cause it's amazing, it's easy to find the bad things about, high school kids or whatever, but like, man, they're awesome. And it's just, I've always felt like this is where I should be, coaching high school football, teaching. And that just definitely confirmed it, Well,
thanks for sharing that. That was great, man.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's not easy for you to tell that story. Chris, what goes through your mind when you know that you're going to have this big battle of your own, but you got to coach these kids who go into battle every week? What is that like, and the mindset that you take into that?
Yeah, I mean, it was, obviously football, like that time from 3:30 to 5:30 or 6 when you practice. The great thing about that is like that's all you care about is football for 2 hours, and you just don't even worry about it, And I think it definitely, to see the support from them just was really encouraging to me, And then eventually, because you can't be, when you go through chemo, there are times where you can't be around other people. So I had to go sit in the stands. I couldn't be on the sideline, and it was killer to not be able to be there. But it was definitely a life-changing experience that season. And, like I had to be absent from my class for a while, and just, but it was good.
Yeah.
It's also humbling because you realize like things can go on without you too, right? Like football kept going, classroom, and it's just, maybe a darker way of looking at it, but it's also humbling to say, hey, you're right, not, I mean, you love what you do. So.
Okay, to walk us through now how you became the head coach here. What was that process like for you?
Yeah, so I think I'd been an assistant at Senior I just always have to go back and count the posters. So
every coach in AA has the same thing though. They all have those, and whenever I talk to them, they're like, this guy plays here, this guy's at Oregon, this guy's at Missouri. It's cool. You guys all do that.
Yeah, so we have, so those are the 7 years I was as an assistant for Coach Sulcer. So after, I think it was going into, it was the last season Coach Sulcer was a head coach, was 2011. And then, we had talked that maybe he was going to move into administration role.
Okay.
And, obviously I think I was the only guy from our staff currently that applied for it, and some other people. And, I just think that it was great because Coach Sulcer had really changed the culture, I feel like. And, there was so many great things in place that I was able to just say, okay, here's what's in place. Here are the 2 or 3 things that I know that, I uniquely can bring and take to another level. And so I just really sold that vision going through talking to our current staff. I think most everybody stayed and coached off of the same staff, which was great.
Yeah.
And then, so it ended up going through the interview process and, then get the job and start talking with the staff and moving forward. So there was definitely a lot of mistakes made early on for sure. So, thankfully the kids, stuck with us and, eventually we figured out some things. So
when you take over a program like that, one that you've been involved in with as an assistant coach, is there a first step in a direction that you want to take the program? Like what was kind of your main points of emphasis going into it?
Yeah, I think mine was the weight room. I think that was one of the things that both myself and the other coaches said, okay, here's something that we can do better. And we just poured our energy and effort into that. And I think that really helped us, build that a little bit more of a culture of toughness. And then obviously me being a defensive guy, I think that combined with that real well also. And so that was where we started for sure, was to, just change the dynamic in the weight room a little bit. So, and I know a lot of high schools and colleges do this now too, but, grouping up into teams throughout the summer, where it's basically, you got 8 teams of, 10 kids that are competing throughout the summer through attendance and, competitions and how much, add up how much every team lifts or how long it takes every, the lowest time can win sometimes. And so that was a cool thing that we started doing. That was a long time ago. And I think now it's something that I think a lot of high schools do. So
that's great.
We call it super group.
Super group. Okay. That's sweet.
That's our summer.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And actually super group itself was something Sulcer started and we just tried to make it, just build it from there.
Sure. So tell me about the first few years as a head coach. I mean, it's got to be interesting, awesome, worrisome. Tell us about it.
Yeah. I mean, and even now, after, now being in it for several years, there's always lessons learned. Pretty much after every game, you're like, oh man, here, you think you have some answers and you know what you're doing as a coach. And then you go to the end of a game, and you're like, nah, there was another thing I learned. Dang it. And so early on for sure, we had some kids that thankfully we could lean on. We had Nolan Saraceni who went on to Montana Tech to have an amazing career and get some NFL tryouts. I mean, he was an awesome running back. Dude. Yeah, he was definitely a dude. And I think he might still be their all-time leading rusher. I could be wrong on that. And so you had a guy like Nolan Saraceni that got you some wins for sure and made some games really exciting. I think against Butte, we had a game where we ended up losing 63-59 or something like that.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
wow.
Defensive coach's nightmare, right?
Yeah.
And then you also have kids intermixed in there. That first year we had a kid that he wasn't necessarily the football player that Nolan was, but these are the kids I think that you build a program. Luke Payne was his name. He went on to end up wrestling at Wyoming and had a great career there, but just his leadership and his understanding of what a team is like, so he didn't necessarily stand out. He wasn't an all-state quarterback, but he certainly was part of how you build a program and how you build a culture.
Yeah.
And then the next year we had Joe Zimmer was our quarterback. And again, now just a tremendous athlete, quarterback, played college baseball, but more than anything else, he understood what it took to win football games. And that starts kind of building that momentum, and you just look at some of the teammates that he had that, weren't as all-state like he was, but were able to, help build that culture, get it going in the right direction, so, and you just kind of keep building that momentum little by little. You find those kids and they don't necessarily have to be great football players, but they're bought into what you want, what your vision is, and we always, from the first meeting, we said, we want to be a program where great things are expected, not hoped for. And that was kind of what can we do to make sure that, that's not, well, I hope Senior has a winning record this year, but it's just an expectation. And so those kids that understand that and buy into that, they're the ones that are going to push you in the right direction. So, yeah.
Whew. I'm ready. Let's go. That was awesome. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. So the stadium right to the northeast of us, Dela Stadium, Wendy's Field, has seen a lot of fantastic games.
Yep.
Do you have any memories there that you would be willing to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that one of the turning points, I think, in our football program was a Thursday night game. It was one of the first Thursday night games that we had played. I mean, Thursday nights were kind of a new thing, and we played Helena High, and Nate Dick was a sophomore, and we started running a play called Power Read now. But it was somewhat of a new play kind of as we got going, and we had a couple wins. We were probably like 2-4 maybe, and Helena High was coming in 5-1, and I feel like that night our program really changed. And then 2014, that year we made it to the quarterfinals, or maybe it was the first, I can't remember. But then the next year after that, we played in the state championship game against Bozeman and took second. And then the next 2 years we won the state championship. But I'll always go back to that night, Helena High, where Nate Dick's playing quarterback and we're running power read. And it was we were one of the first teams to really, lean on that play for us. And so that's when you have jet sweep motion coming across in front of the quarterback, and he's going to ride that jet sweep motion as his eyes are on the defensive end, and he's going to either give it or keep it based on how that defensive end reacts to that sweep look. And Nate just kept getting north and south, and we had some punt blocked in that game, but that was where I really feel like our program turned the corner, was that Thursday night. And we obviously had some really that was Gabe Sulcer's freshman year, and he was really involved as a freshman in high school. And so I think that stands out. And then of course, fast forward to the state championship games, where we hosted Glacier High School, and that was a really good Glacier team. And they had some guys that, Pat O'Connell's on the Seattle Seahawks right now, and he was
on that team.
Yeah, he was
what
there.
Position?
He played their will linebacker, and then he played tight end fullback for them.
My.
He was a good player for Glacier, and their quarterback was Gilman, who played linebacker for the Bobcats. I don't know if you remember him. And then probably their best player ended up getting hurt. Their D end, Jackson. I can't remember his full name right now, but he was a beast. And it was a back and forth game. And then we came to a point against Glacier where we ran a play we hadn't ran all season. It was kind of something we came up with on the sideline. The offensive coaches came up with, and it was just a way to get Gabe the ball in the back of the end zone. And that ended up, he went up and made a catch over two guys. I know you're real smart as a coach when you throw into double coverage, but those are the things that make you successful as a coach, are guys that are going to go up and win
making plays. Yeah.
For sure, making plays. And so that ended up being I think the nail in the coffin in that game, and we went on to win that. And then the Helena High game, was again another back and forth state championship game that we ended up, in the state championship game. The first time we had Nate Dick at quarterback, who was just an unbelievable high school football player and had a great career at Rocky. And then the next year we have Nolan Askelson, who he was first team All-State as a Mike linebacker and as a quarterback.
What? Wow.
And
that's awesome.
Just finished up at Montana State this year. And so, I mean, it's those kind of kids that, obviously propel you. I mean, I think you can be, somewhat consistent without the Gabe Sulcers and Nolan Askelsons of the world, but you're not going to win a state championship without those special groups, and so not only what did we have them, but we also had then a great group of kids around them. So yeah. Those are some of the games that stand out to me.
I'm sure they were loud in there. That stadium's awesome. I'm going to take my drone after this and do a little
for sure,
little footage of it, if that's right.
It's a cool.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
We definitely need to update it, but there's obviously a lot of great memories. Yeah, for sure. Yep.
It's like that one and the one at Butte High School are like the one at Butte High School is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, trying to explain that to our team this year, because that's where we ended up losing our last game this year in the playoffs. But for having an average season like we did this year, and then having an opportunity to play a playoff game at Naranche Stadium is just an unbelievable opportunity. So I was really excited for our kids, because that's a great place to play football.
I think everybody should go to. I haven't been to a game there yet, but I went there with Coach Gray, and it's a fantastic place.
Yeah.
One question I've asked every coach I've met up with, there's been 6 of you guys now. What does AA football mean for the state of Montana?
Yeah, I think, you see the pride that it creates, just like last night in the Grizz game when you see Junior Birkin, and then a few years before that it was Tommy Malott, right? And just the pride that brings. I mean, look at how many hours people drive to go to a Grizz game. I think there's very few states in the country where football has that sort of draw and that sort of meaning. And so, I just think the young men that play in our, programs and then go on to that would be the first thing that comes to mind, just because we're fresh off the Grizz game last night.
Yeah.
And then I think you see the leaders in the community that come out of these programs because like we had talked about earlier, we're a pretty tight fraternity, these AA coaches in Montana and I think in every one of our missions, it's to build men, right? Obviously a lot of these guys aren't going to go on to play college football or go on, if they do play college football, go on to play in the NFL.
Right.
And so I think we're pretty united in the fact that we're building men who are going to go out and be leaders and make a difference in their community. And that's how, like at senior high, that's what we've continued to talk about is, you can't obviously go as change the world, but what you can do is you can chip away a little bit by continuing to focus on building, our mission is to build men for others while pursuing excellence on the field. And, we try to deal with a lot of the issues, a lot of the negative things we see in society by sending out men. Cause I really feel like if men lead, if men go on and as they go out in their career and their family and they take ownership and responsibility and all those things that make a good football player, it's going to make the community better. And so that I think we're pretty united in AA in Montana, that's our mission. And so that's why I think too that it does mean a lot. So
10 out of 10 answer. That was good. That was good. We've been at this for about 28 minutes now, so we got 2 segments left.
Okay.
And then we'll get you out of here. We'll go watch some football. So this is called 10 for 10. 10 for 10 is 10 questions. There's no right or wrong answer, but you have to answer them as fast as possible.
Perfect.
You remember my name is Dallas, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Okay, ready? 10 for 10, Coach Murdock, and away we go. Cat or dog?
Dog.
Hot dog or hamburger?
Hamburger.
Palm trees or evergreen trees?
Evergreen trees.
Lake or ocean?
Lake.
Favorite actor?
Tom Cruise.
All right. Favorite band or rapper?
Man, that one's a tough one. I would probably say Weezer.
Oh, good pick. I haven't had that one. What city in Texas has an NBA mascot nicknamed the Mavericks?
Dallas.
What city in Texas has an NFL team nicknamed the Cowboys?
Dallas.
What city in Texas spelled backwards reads salad?
Dallas.
Yeah. Who is your new favorite podcaster and new best buddy?
Dallas.
There we go. Appreciate it, Coach. Okay, so swim lessons, like we were talking about before, is kind of a podcast about overcoming adversity, getting through the tough times. You were kind of sharing with us some lessons that you've learned throughout your life. Very inspiring. So tell us, Chris, what do you say to yourself when your back's up against the wall and you're kind of having some doubt in your mind?
Yeah, I think every coach can attest to that there's times, even in the most successful seasons, where you do have a lot of doubt. And I think for me, my faith's really important, and I, in order for me to do this job well, my identity has to be rooted in something besides wins and losses. And for me, that goes back to my faith, my identity in Christ. And if I don't tie into that, which oftentimes I screw up a lot, and that's where I definitely do the worst. But and so that to me is how from back to my cancer diagnosis and all that. I mean, I knew that for me, my faith is that this God's got a purpose in it. And then the hardest thing to deal with as a coach is all the noise. And if you don't have your identity rooted in something other than your wins and losses, you're going to struggle. And so for me, thankfully, my faith is my foundation and something that I definitely lean on.
Well, that was great. Appreciate it. Coach Murdock, thank you for doing this today. Appreciate you opening the doors to the school here and getting it done. What's a quick plug here for Senior? Where can they find you and where can people follow along?
Yeah, I think if you look on Instagram and Twitter, I think it's probably at Senior Football. I should know off the top of my head, but that's definitely not my strong suit on the social media. I'm trying to do better at that.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure.
Makes
We're
sense.
we're out there, or just, you can follow Nolan Askelson, Junior Bergen, those guys.
Yeah, the studs.
That's So I did notice today on Twitter that Junior's background is still coming out on the field at Senior. So
that's awesome.
Quite a pride. That made me pretty proud. So,
yeah, hell yeah. Well, I mean, you're making a lot of people proud, and I appreciate your time. And that's a wrap. Coach Murdock, Senior High.